Events that we have organized previously include UK specialty webinar series and the essentials of internship and foundation year. So without further ado, I'm presenting to you our first speaker, Dr. Hani. So Dr. Hani is a dermatology trainee registrar in Northampton, currently in the last stages of Master's by Research in Health and Economics. Dr. Hani has been involved in various publications and presentations, as well as achieving several awards throughout her professional career. She will be sharing some of the trainees' top tips tonight. So presenting to you, Dr. Hani.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can everyone hear me? Okay, all right, so I'm just going to share my slides and then we can start the presentation. So, right, okay, so I'm Hani. I'm a trainee registrar in dermatology, and my topic today is on trainee top tips for improving your CV. I first want to say that I feel really humbled to be asked to present this topic. I don't feel like I am the best. I don't have the best CV, but I do have a little tips and tricks to try and improve your CV and increase your chances. The first question that you might want to ask before you think about improving your CV is why you want to do it. I like to divide the doctors up into 4 categories. So there might be the ones who are goal-oriented. These are the ones that know what they want to do and they have a specialty in mind. There's also the conformer. These are probably the junior doctors who are quite happy where they are and just want to fill in the blanks to make sure that they progress into the next step of their career. There's also the happy-go-lucky, I don't really care ones. These ones are the ones that have been working for a while. They don't really know which specialty they want to go into, but they just want to make sure that they're ready when the time comes that they want to go into a specialty. And then there's the enthusiasts. These are your keen beans that just want to have everything. So regardless of which one you are, hopefully today's topic will be useful for you. Okay, so where do you start? So the first question to ask yourself is which specialty you want to go into. Once you know which specialty you want to go into, you can Google the person's specification. And this is basically the set of criteria you need to have to venture into a specialty. Look at the person's specification and identify your weaknesses and plan what you can do to improve your chances. Set your targets and then you can also look at blogs and courses. I quite like blogs that are written by registrars because they are junior doctors and what they say is usually very relevant to you. If you have gotten an interview for dermatology, a very good course is the Derm Hour course. They will go through the interview techniques. But if you don't have a specialty of interest, it's still worth going through the same motions. Look at a person's specification. The point here is that whatever achievements you have in any other specialty is transferable to another specialty. And then, so this is just an example. I went into the JRCTB website and I looked at their application form and also their person specification. And as you can see here, they've divided the CV into sections, undergrad, postgrad, etc., etc., etc. So my advice would be to try and tailor your CV towards these sections. Okay. So how do you start? Tell your educational supervisor of your interests and ask them how you can increase your chances. Plan early because projects do take a long time before you actually see an outcome. And make friends with academics because these are the people who are interested in doing publications and presentations. Also be strategic. Choose the type of projects you want to do. Don't do too many, but they are less accountable. Just do one very good one that scores you the most points. And we'll go through a few tips on trying to get that. So common pitfalls, thank you to those that already sent in your CV. A few things that I've noticed is that a lot of candidates tend to list their experience or activities. The problem with this is that the examiner or the interviewer may not know the significance of that experience or activities. Listing too many non-medical achievements can also be a problem because it distracts from the more important achievements in medicine. And listing according to timeline can also be problematic because again, the examiner or the interviewer may not understand the significance of your experiences. So the right way to do it is to do it according to the application. Go through an undergraduate section, postgraduate section, prize exams, etc., etc. And then the significance of an achievement is based on the level of the achievement, whether it was a national achievement, was it a regional or a local achievement. So I want to give you an example of one section in a CV. So top tip here is signposting is essential. Make sure you make it very clear what you are trying to tell your interviewers. So example here, so this is section 3 of my CV. Presentations, I divide it into national presentation, regional presentation, and local presentations. I also showed whether it was an oral presentation or it was a poster presentation, because oral presentations actually give you more points. And it didn't matter that this poster presentation was in 2020. I put it a little bit below because actually I wanted to highlight my highest achievement, which is an oral presentation at a national meeting. So that is how you should be outlining your CV. Okay. So I don't want to bore everyone, so I want this to be a little bit more interactive. We'll try and put ourselves into the shoes of an interviewer, and I want you to think about how much you want to score a candidate. So my colleague, one of my team members today will be running a poll to answer these questions. So the first question is, for undergraduate degree section, which candidate will score higher points? Candidate A scored 10A plus in SPM, scored 45 for International Baccalaureate Diploma, whereas candidate B scored 9A plus in SPM, scored 37 for International Baccalaureate Diploma, 2-1 in BSc Biochemistry Intercalated Degree. So everyone can start polling and submit your answers. Okay, maybe we can share. So very good, very good. So most of you scored answered the right answer. So it didn't matter that you scored 45 for International Baccalaureate degree. Agreeably, it's a very it's an achievement that anyone would be proud of. But if it's not related to your medical degree, you won't be scoring points for it. So top tip here, answer is candidate B. And then the top tip here is only degrees relevant to medicine will score points. So if you do want to put in something that is not related to medicine, but you are particularly proud of it, you can still put it under the section of an undergraduate degree, but make sure you put it at the very bottom of your list. Okay, so next, Paul, postgraduate degree. Which candidate will score more points? Candidate A, PhD in physics, candidate B, PG Cert in health economics, and diploma in tropical medicine. So we can share the poll. Can we share the poll? Okay. Anyone having trouble? Oops. Well, you guys got the answer. Okay, so point here is okay, we won't run that poll. This was the last one though. This was the last poll. Okay, that's fine. We already got the answer for this one. So the answer is PhD in physics. The reason being is for postgraduate degree, a degree that has a higher level will score more points. And it doesn't matter that candidate B had done a few diplomas and PG certs in health economics and tropical medicine. So the top tip when you're aiming for a postgraduate degree, you might want to aim for a postgraduate degree that is most suited to you. Choose one that is most efficient in time, money, and points. A PhD, obviously, it will score you a lot of points, but it is 4 years out of your training for you to get a PhD, and it's usually very expensive. So think about what is most suited to you when you want to do a postgraduate degree. My advice is to do things like PG certs because they are usually 6 months long, and they are done remotely, and you can do it whilst you are doing your training. Okay, so next question, postgraduate degree, which candidate will score more points? Candidate A, MSc in medical education, and candidate B, MSc in health economics. So we'll give it a few seconds. Okay, I think we can probably share now. Yes, very good. So most of you knew this trick. So the answer is MSc in medical education scores more points. The reason being is that if you, the top tip here is that degrees in medical education gives you points in training and teaching and points in postgraduate degree. So if you're thinking of doing any kind of postgraduate degree, medical education is probably the best one to aim for more points. Okay. Then the next one is do what you love. When you're choosing to do a postgraduate degree, you'll be spending a lot of time on it. So you don't want to be doing a degree that you're not interested in. You also want to speak to your postgraduate center. For most people, the issue with getting a postgraduate degree is actually getting the funding for postgraduate degrees. And a lot of postgraduate centers have some deals for doctors. So for example, where I used to work, they used to give out free PG certs if you contributed to teaching monthly. So it's worth speaking to your postgraduate center and asking if they have any kind of deals like this. You also want to search the internet. There's plenty out there that you can do remotely. And you want to avoid courses with lots of commitment but lack in qualifications. Okay, so next, awards. What are the mistakes in this CV? Just so you know, the questions that I put out today are based on seeing other colleagues and also from the CVs that I got from the participants today. So for this one, this candidate graduated BCH with a merit award, scholarship of Faculty of Medical Sciences, Bristol University, recipient of JPA Higher Education Scholarship Award, participation with merit award in National Physics Olympiad. So what are the mistakes here? A, BCH abbreviation is unclear, no signposting, non-medical achievements are listed, all of the above. So I think we can share now. So yeah, so most of you answered all of the above. It is so the answer is all of the all of the above. So in this, we'll look through one by one. So BCH abbreviation is unclear. I don't know the significance of a BCH merit award. What is BCH? So as an interviewer, I wouldn't know how to score the candidate. Second one is Scholarship of Faculty of Medical Sciences, Bristol University. This isn't signposted. I don't know whether this could be a national scholarship, but I would assume it is a local scholarship because she's written down, or he's written down, Bristol University on the side. So you need to signpost whether this is a local, regional, or national achievement. Recipient of JPA Higher Education Scholarship Award. Again, this is not signposted. Whether this is probably a national award because anyone can apply to JPA scholarship. And then here, participation with merit award in National Physics Olympiad. This is a non-medical achievement. So all these are mistakes. Obviously, you can write down the non-medical ones, but just put it at the very end of your list. Okay. So with awards, all the applications tell you very distinctively which ones are considered to be national, regional, etc., and tells you how much points you will get. And this is be very mindful that you don't overscore yourself. So top tip here is be careful of over-claiming your points because you will be called out for it in the interview if they suspect this. Okay, so next one, exams. Which of these two medical specialty candidates will score better points? Candidate A, Part 1 MRCP. Candidate B, only Part 1. Sorry, these are, the questions was changed. So I'm going to change it here. So I'm going to answer this question basically. Part 1 MRCP, Part 1 MRCGP. The answer would be Part 1 MRCP because MRCP is a medical exam. MRCGP might not, Part 1 will not score you any points. Top tip here is be strategic in your choice of exams. Okay. Next, presentations. Which of these candidate would score more points? Candidate A, oral presentation on fluid resuscitation, UCL London. Oral presentation on pityriasis rubra-pilaris, UCL London. Oral presentation on eczema, Edinburgh, Cambridge. Candidate B, health economics presentation at the Health and Research Wales. So I think we can share now. Right, so this is interesting. So most of you scored the candidate A as the higher candidate. Now, when in actual fact, it's candidate B that will get more points. And why is this? If you look at this, it does look really established. London, Cambridge is all established places, whereas Wales isn't, probably worldwide doesn't sound as established as London and Cambridge. But in actual fact, if you present at a Wales meeting or any of the other devolved countries, it will be considered as a national presentation. So devolved countries are considered national presentations. So if you present at Scotland or Wales, that is considered as a national presentation. And it's good because I think it's an opportunity and it's a tip because you probably have less competition in these areas because there's lesser amount of universities in that area. So for example, in Wales, you only have Cardiff, Bangor, Swansea. There's only 3 different universities. So you're not competing against a lot of places, but if you were to win a prize at that presentation, you would get a national presentation. So be tactical about where you want to present your cases. So tips on presentation, we already mentioned oral presentation scores more, national presentation scores more, devolved countries are national presentations, and you want to kill as many birds with one stone. So when you're choosing a place to present your case, make sure it's a national presentation and make sure that it is, you would also get an abstract publication from that presentation. And you can easily look this up online. Okay, so next presentation, what are the mistakes in the CV? Presentation on case study of myocardial infarction. A, type of presentation not stated. B, place of presentation not stated. C, level of presentation not stated. D, all of the above. So the polls. Okay, maybe we can share. Very good. Yeah, that's all of it is not is right, because one, she or he didn't say whether it was oral or a poster presentation. They didn't say where the presentation was given, and hence I don't know. And they didn't state whether it is a national, regional, or local presentation. Okay. So top tip here is all the above. The significance of a presentation should be highlighted. Okay. Publication. Okay. Which candidate will score more? Candidate A, first author case report on myocardial infarction, first author letter to editor on treatment of hypercholesterolemia, and first author of case report on atopic dermatitis. Candidate B, first author of a randomized control trial of ustekinumab in psoriasis. Clinical experimental dermatology. Okay, so give it a few more seconds. Right, we can share now. Very good, so most of you knew this. An original research always scores more points, regardless of the fact that you've had plenty of non-original research publications, and regardless of the fact of the impact factor of the journal. So the BMJ is a high impact factor journal. The CED is a lesser impact factor, and yet because this is an original research, you would score more. And only PubMed cited publications will get higher points, will get higher points. So the answer is this one. And then top tip is original research scores more points. I guess the thing to know here is that it's harder to get original research. It takes more time to do a randomized controlled trial as compared to writing up a case report. So for most candidates, if you can only do a non-original research, maximize what you can do. And once you maximize the points, you don't want to go any further. If you want to do more publications after that, it's only after you've worked on the other sections of your CV. So if you've done 2 or more of a non-original research, you would score 4 points. And then if you were to do another 3, 4, 5, you wouldn't score any further. So just maximize what you can do at the level that you are able to, if you get what I'm saying. Okay. You can ask me if you don't understand what I mean. Okay, so next, publication. Which candidate will score more? Candidate A, first author of multiple different publications. Candidate B, joint author of a retrospective study on association of immunosuppressive therapy and skin cancers, BMJ. So I think we can share the poll. Co-author. Okay. Yes. So in this case, actually, the answer is co-author of retrospective study will score more points. The reason being is that it's original research. So being a co-author, as well as a joint author, or the first author of original research will still score you more than being a first author of multiple non-original research. So again, the top tip here is joint author points are similar to first author points. And then co-author points are still higher than first author points for multiple non-original research publications. Okay. And then top tips in publication, original research could score more, joint author original research more than first author of non-original research. But then non-original research easier to obtain but score less. If you do want to do a original research that is quick, an example is a critical appraised topic. This is basically a shorter version of a systematic review. So you might have a clinical question, you do a search, and then you only pick the best 3 papers to write a critical appraised topic. And then interestingly, joint author is equal to a first author. So examples of a joint author situation that you might go into is if you had somebody who was good at statistics and they wanted to do a systematic review, but they're not very good at writing, you can be the writer and they can do the statistic part of the research. You can be a joint author in cases like this. So if you've never had a publication, it does feel like it's a minefield to go into. When I first started my publication, I had one try, and which I didn't get into. But then as I got to know some professors who were academics, I started networking. I got more projects. And once you do one good case report publication, the consultants start to notice you. They know that you can write, and then they start to offer you more publications. And once you start publications, you're finding that they're coming to you nonstop, that you just don't have time to do it. So advice here is to network. But how do you network? If you work in acute medicine or in a place where people are quite busy and they don't really have time to delve into publishing things, it's worth doing a taster session with a very academic specialty. So example is dermatology, surgeons are quite keen on publishing. And then as you go in, as you meet them, make it clear to them that you're interested in getting publications. Chances are they have a few projects that they want someone to do for them, because my consultants, they have plenty of projects that they want someone to do, but there's just no one there to do it for them. So tell people how you feel, tell them what you want, and inshallah you will get it. Second is you can also formally contact associations. You can email the Royal College and tell them that you're interested to join, to be part of a research, and they're always interested to get you on board, and tell your supervisor, because they will look out for good cases, or they can direct you to the right people. Okay, so if you are somebody who hasn't had the opportunity to meet with people who can show you or guide you towards publishing an original research, you might want to do a case report. Now, if you want to do a case report, there are a few tips on finding cases that are publishable. First tip is the common is better than the rare. The reason being is because the common conditions are more relevant to clinical practice. So people don't really want to read about rare diseases that they will never see. But if you want to look at a common condition, there are a few things about it that makes it publishable. So one is that if a common condition presents in an atypical way, or a common condition is treated in with a new treatment, or if a common condition gives you a speculation about associations. So for example, psoriasis, it was poorly understood in the past. We all thought it was an inflammatory, mostly like a barrier form of, no, in fact, sorry, they thought that it was a hyperkeratotic condition where you have got too much keratin building up. But from a case of a patient who was known to have psoriasis and had renal transplant and was started on cyclosporin, they noticed that the patient's rash just cleared. And from there was some insights that the pathomechanics of psoriasis was a T cell mediated condition. So these are the things that are publishable cases that you might want to think about. Occasionally, rare diseases may be accepted. And these are usually short publications, mostly picture publications. But I like I like the picture publications because they don't take so much time to write. Okay, so that's a few things about if you want to publish a case report. Okay, so next one, teaching. Which candidate will score more points? Candidate A contributed to regular monthly teaching to medical students over a year. Candidate B designed with local tutors a teaching program to medical students and contributed to teaching over a 3-month period. So can we share the poll? So shall we share? So yes, very good, yes. So this is a common pitfall. It's good that everyone knows the theory that actually when you design a teaching program, even though it's for a lesser period of time, only 3 months, you will actually score more points than somebody who's just contributed to regular teaching. And if you think about it, it does take longer to prepare for one teaching session and to give it over a year period compared to being the organizer of a teaching program. Because with being the organizer means that you just have to list down the different topics you want to tell the student, that you want to do for the students, and then you get other people to do the hard work of teaching. So if you are going to teach, make sure you are the organizer as well. So top tip, organize a teaching program, don't just contribute. Okay, tips on organizing teaching. Sometimes you might feel like, where am I going to start? There's teaching everywhere. There are always gaps in teaching. There are plenty of opportunities. Medical students, junior doctors, registrars, we are always yearning for teaching, good teaching in fact, but people are always busy. So there are plenty of opportunities. If you don't want to delve into a topic that's not your expertise, simple teaching like mentoring and journal club is something that anyone can do. You don't have to be an expert in mentoring. You don't have to be an expert in psoriasis, for example. You can just pick up a journal article and present it in a journal club. That's good enough. So these are easy ways of organizing teaching. You can also speak to your postgrad and undergraduate center. They might be able to point you to the right direction and get your colleagues on board to do the hard work with you. Okay, another thing is easy points for teaching and training. This one, everyone should have. If you're not going to do a PG Cert or diploma or master's, make sure at the very least you do this. You get these 2 marks because every candidate is going to have those 2 marks. This is basically substantial training in teaching lasting more than 2 days. So all you need to do is book yourself into a teaching and training course that lasts for more than 2 days. So when I applied for my training number, I only had 3 days of a teaching and training program. So bare minimum. Really, you don't want to be wasting your time. Okay, next. QIP, which candidate will score more points? Candidate A, fluid prescribing audit and presented at a local grand round, drug monitoring audit, methotrexate audit. Candidate B organized a quality improvement project with 2-cycle audit and presented at departmental meeting. So shall we share the poll? So share the results. Very good, yes. So this is again another theory that everyone knows, but not everyone does. You see a lot of people that do so many different audits, but never close the loop and don't do a quality improvement project. It's a waste of time. So make sure if you are going to do a quality improvement project that you close a loop and you present at a departmental meeting at the very least. Okay. So top tip, always try to close an audit and present at a meeting. Leadership, which candidate will score more points? Candidate A, BMA Executive Representative. Candidate B, President of Mercy Malaysia. So share the poll. So we can share the results. Interesting. To be on, all of them will be, both of them are just equally good. The reason is being that recently they accepted charities, scout, even sports leadership in the application form. So let's see. So this is the application form. So if you have a national leadership in the medical field, or even in charities, scouts, creative arts, you would get equal points. So make sure that you are active and you're doing things outside of medicine, because actually they do count in your application form. And then others, depending on which specialty you're going into, some specialties actually give you points for the courses that you go. In medical specialty, they don't give you any points for the courses that you go to, but it gives a good impression that you're interested in the specialty. But for some other specialties like surgery, they do like to see you do a few courses like the ATLS, BSS, and CCRISP. These do score your points. So top tip, if you know a specialty in mind, look at their application form and what points you can score. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
We have 5 minutes for question session. Otherwise, we still have a Q&A session at the end.
So, Sonali, what if you do an audit and present at the departmental meeting? Would that score any more than just doing an audit? Yes, definitely. When you do a presentation, you will always get more points. Even if your audit doesn't give you, to be honest with you, I would have to check that, because I think in the presentation section, if you present a audit, a QIP, your presentation is not included. But if it's just an audit which is presented, I'm not sure about that, Sonali. I will have to get back to you on that. Any other questions?
Any other question to our speaker? There's a question from Kurian.
So Sonali, back to your answer, yeah. But back to the answer. If it's just an audit and you don't actually, and it's not part of a quality improvement project, for the ST3 application, you don't get a point, even if you present it. But if that audit is part of a quality improvement project that you're just involved in, you would get a point for that. But the point would be quite small, only 2. But if you did a closed loop, you would get 8 points. So it's, in fact, yeah, 8 points and easy points, really. Okay, so next one, if you have completed a re-audit, the second cycle, but did not do the first cycle, does that count? Yes, it would count because it's part of a quality improvement project. Assuming that the re-audit is following some changes that you have done. Then for an ST3 dermatology application, and for even CSD, the application form is the same for CSD and ST3 application. So it's very relevant to many other specialties. It would count if the re-audit is part of a QIP. Is that okay?
All right, thank you so much, everyone. It's about time for our next speaker, Dr. Azli. So Dr. Azli is a consultant neurologist and cerebrovascular medicine with more than 20 years of experience in medicine. Dr. Azli has taken on various roles in research, training, and supervision of foundation doctors, core medical, and specialist training. We're delighted to have Dr. Azli on board tonight to share the trainer's top tips. Welcome, Dr. Azli.
Well, can you hear me now? Okay, the beauty of technology. Apologies for the, I've been talking to myself. I suppose it's fun for you to just see me talking to myself. But anyway, apologies for the problem. So good evening to and assalamu alaikum to all participants. So I'm going to cover the tips mainly on the non-training posts, fellowship, clinical and research, and also for those who are nearing to the end of your training, maybe consultant tips on consultant CV preparation. So Hillary Clinton, the previous First Lady, a while ago, said that progress depends on the choices we make today for tomorrow. So we have to plan because whatever you're planning today will determine what you are going to be in 5 or 10 years down the line. And this very interesting book, if you have not come across it, is by Michelle Hussein, one of the award-winning BBC newscaster and journalist, said that in terms of planning, one of the suggestions is to develop a 5-year plan, and you need to have and then you can visualize. Another tip is to visualize twin horizon, where you actually focus what you want to go next in the next 5, maybe 1 or 2 years, but you are still doing what you are doing at the time. So it's like a 2 horizon, 2 realities. And then you want to learn from the experience of others. So some important notes on CV. So if we look at the those who actually review your CV, when you send a CV for any post, even for the standard application for foundation and CT trainees and ST, there is because the recruiter have to take a lot of times, and there are hundreds of CVs to go through. They really go this really fast, and from my own experience, it is I think 6 seconds is probably right. So there's a research done looking at how quickly an average CV is reviewed by a recruiter, and it's actually very short. You'd be surprised for all the hard work you put on that CV of yours. The person who looks at it can only give no more than 10 seconds to decide whether they should bin your CV or whether they should take it further. So because of that, one needs to grab the recruiter attention quickly and be concise and cleverly concise. I suppose when you have a standard format like the training program, then it is not an issue, because the person who does the long listing and short listing will actually have to go through all the aspect of it without so there's no shortcut. But even then, they believe you me, they go very, very fast. For the non-training post, then it is even faster. So that's the time that you have. So you have to work in that 6 seconds to grab the attention of your CV. So you have to structure and format it properly. You have to try and have a summary of a career goals and achievement to dates to grab this attention. And you want to do it in a reverse chronological history. You want to ensure there's no employment gap. So this is one of the things that will be picked up by the interviewer or the recruiter, is if there's any gaps in your employment. If there is, you have to explain what happened there, whether it is due to some illness or furthering your experience in other areas. You do not want to state too much on normal duties or responsibilities, because again, that is stating the obvious. and you want to write about something that you achieve and that has made a difference. So it's really that in that less than 10 seconds, you want to grab the attention of the recruiter, because otherwise it will go into the bin. Some of the common errors when writing CVs, in that you are not quantifying the achievement. So for example, you may say that I teach during my training, I teach medical students, or I give a tutorial, but it's actually better to actually I teach 60 students, so you actually quantify that. So things as simple as that makes a lot of difference. So you have to quantify your achievement. So this is especially in these days of data, the wealth of data that one has in the system. It is almost a grave error not to quantify any kind of achievement. So if you want to say that I help I help in the audit project on blah blah blah, but you want to actually say this audit project has made a difference in that it reduced the hospital admission by 5%. So that is actually, so there is this difference in terms of quantifying your achievement or your contribution. So it's important to quantify that in your CV. And then this goes without saying, the typos and grammatical errors, you often see that. So you want to make sure that these are small things, but it's picked up and it shows the person applying or presenting the CV, if they're not particular about grammar and typos, then how can they be particular about more important things? The relevance. So when you do the CV, you want to tailor it so that it is relevant to the job that you apply. Some people thought that the working experience is always or only related to the paid job, but sometimes unpaid experience is actually valuable, highly valuable. So people don't tend to put that. If you're doing volunteering work with Médecins Sans Frontières, for example, you actually spend whatever during your doing an unpaid experience, or you go doing some humanitarian work. So that is obviously unpaid. So you need to actually put that in your CV, even for unpaid experience, unpaid work experience. And then I mentioned earlier, failing to tailor your CV to the specific job. People just send the same CV and recycle it many times without tailoring to the actual job. So these are some of the typical errors in when writing up CVs. So these are some of the examples. I think if you remember I mentioned about the 6 seconds rule. So you want to actually try and use what we recommend is about 2 pages. So you want to actually, in that page, you don't want to make it too crowded, but you want to put a lot of information, salient information in that short space of time, because you want to grab the attention of the recruiter. So because when it is cleverly concise, then it will grab the attention, because they will not have time to read your CV. So this is one example. I think it's a good example of a CV. As you can see, you can actually add anything or remove some of these which are not related. So you can start with the personal details, the highlights or summary of your CV, and then you put your academic qualification, your professional involvement in various roles or bodies, and if you have administrative duties, then you have areas of expertise, your important research areas. You want to list some important or relevant or highlighted publications. You want to look into the management side with the service and quality development, quality improvement. You want to show that you have this teaching roles or supervisory role. And if you have been offered to do some consulting or consultation projects, you want to mention that, including awards and recognition, and also your contribution to society. So this is one example of a CV template, which obviously, if you apply to the standard training program, you do not have the. You can still have this in your CV and just cut and paste to the other ones. So if you want to concentrate more, this is in terms of research. So in terms of research areas of publications. So in terms of the publications, you want to actually expand that. So you want to break it down to something more. So you can say whether you contributed to writing books or contributing to chapters in books and research paper, peer-reviewed paper, review articles, invited editorials, some presentation, whether it's poster or oral, and the abstract. And also you may want to put something non-medical publication, something you feel that may be relevant to the post that you applied. So do not just stick to the medical thing. When you apply for a particular job, before the shortlisting, and this is usually applied to academic or senior level appointment, for example, a fellowship, a research fellowship or clinical fellowship, or a consultant post, then the question is whether you should visit or not to visit the department or the institution. In general, it is best to visit the institution even before the shortlisting, because if you do not, then it will significantly reduce the shortlisting chance. And it is always a worthwhile and rewarding exercise, because you may, I mean, for example, if you're offered a job in Edinburgh, in Cambridge, you may think that, oh, this is a fantastic place to work. And then if you go and have a look around in that particular department, you may find actually you are better off elsewhere. So just the fact that an institution has a name doesn't necessarily mean that it is the best place for you to train or to work. Again, if before the shortlisting, you want to see the potential or talk to the potential decision makers, and these are usually clinicians who you would be working. And then really, when you visit this institution, it is done in an informal way, and your goal is to convince the people there, if you're really interested to work there, that you are the right and you are the best candidate for the job. So this is the question. Sometimes people ask whether or not you should. I don't think this is considered as canvassing. I think this is it's more like a fact-finding missions. So an example of application forms, in your forms, you want to. This applies to both training and non-training posts. If the evidence, you want to put a lot of evidence of your qualification, publication. So you want to evidence it, because the training is competency based. So you want to actually put as many facts as possible, and you do not. On the other hand, you do not want to overclaim because it will be checked, and the problem is that if you overclaim, then once we check it, then it'll be a problem. Then can be reported as an issue to potentially to the GMC, but this has really been done. We do get some overclaiming from not so many from in the UK, but we do get from the local UK applicants, but we do get some from non-UK applicants where they overclaim. We have to check and find there may be some discrepancy in terms of what they claim. So preparing for the CV and the interview. So the first thing is that, as the first speaker mentioned, you want to be proactive in spotting the advert. You want to start early to familiarize yourself. So even looking at the advert, even if it's 1 or 2 years down the line, looking at the advert, looking at the job spec will actually help you develop your portfolio. And then on the, for the interview, you want to know the time, the date, time, location. You want to make sure that you do not miss it or late. You want to go through your CV and practice. You want to keep practicing your highlights, the highlights of your CV. You want to get these are basic stuff. Get a good night's sleep. Have some sugar in your body. You do not want to be hypoglycemic, especially when your sympathetic systems are fully or over functioning at the time. So you want to get good energy source. You want to look professional by wearing appropriate dress. The body language is important. The first impression is actually visual, and so it is important that a lot of things about the first impression, and I mentioned about the body language. Whatever opinion you have about Donald Trump's, he has an authoritative style of presenting. The way he uses his hand gesture and his body language is actually shows that he is in control. So so it is important to have a good body language during interview. Remember, eye contact is very important, and also remember some of the interview panel may not have seen your CV before the interview, so it is important to actually to make a small comment about it. So the importance of first impression is that you will probably never get a second chance to make a great first impression, and it only takes a fraction of a second to actually have that first impression. So it is important to actually have to show your worth in that few seconds, and the body language accounts for 55% of that, and 38% from the tone of voice, and the actual words that you use is only 7%. And another tip is that whilst waiting for an important meeting, a lot of us have been usually offered to have a seat in the waiting room and all of that. But maybe you want to try this technique, is to actually stand up when it comes to maybe a few minutes before. You will actually feel that you are more ready to present yourself by standing up, because when you sit down, you will actually, the natural temptation is to actually grab your phone and look at the social media or whatever, and then you're not really focused. So try and stand up whilst waiting for before your interview. I mean, if you arrive early, obviously you want to stand up for that amount of time, but you want to time it maybe a few minutes, 4 or 5 minutes before you want to stand up. You'll be sitting down anyway during the interview. So that is one tips. This is the importance of body language, the high power and low power. And this is a famous study by Amy Cuddy in Harvard University. So what they did with this high power and low power, they measured the hormones, the testosterone and cortisol, before and after the power poses. And what they found is that after 2 minutes, there is an increased testosterone by 20%, and then there is a reduction in the cortisol, which is usually associated with stress, by 25%, just by 2 minutes of power poses. So you can see the difference there. These are some of the background and motivation question. We usually break it down to the clinical, academic, and management, and personal. And so when you ask questions, So for example, if you talk me through your CV achievement, you want to give a brief summary of training with a description of skills. So that is a clinical. And then you want to talk about the academic. And then you want to talk about the management, what the QIP that you've done. And then you want to talk maybe about the personal. So this, when they say, talk me through your CV, you go through this mindset: clinical, academic, management, and personal, called CAMP. The same thing again, where do you see yourself in 10 years' time? So you obviously say, I'll be a consultant on academic, senior lecturer, for example. And again, you go the same thought process. You want to break it down to clinical, academic, management, and personal.
Sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Azli, but just doing a time check. If you could finish quite soon, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, I'm coming to the end. So this is one of the last slides. For the non-training grade or research posts, you want to prepare early, make a direct inquiry to the institution. You want to do the relevant advice, as you heard from the first lecture, and the fonts, you do not want to make it smaller than 10. You want to keep to 2 pages rule, recommend between 1 and 5 pages. And then you want to mention all of that I mentioned earlier about the structure. For the job interview, the talking is usually done by the interviewee. So we expect 80% of it's done by the interviewee. So you are there to sell yourself. And these are some of the points where the interview will impress into a strong handshake, smart and appropriately dressed, sloppy appearance, poor grooming may not be in the favor of interviewer. You want to be relaxed, energetic, enthusiastic. Good use of body language, as mentioned earlier. When they say, do you have any questions? You may say yes or no. But if you say yes, you want to make sure that you have a good question to ask. And making a good exit is almost as important as making a good entrance. For the consultant post, you need a more polished CV. You want to be clear in what you want to achieve. The interviewer panel is larger, so up to 12 people in the one big room. And it can take up to 60 minutes. And it is a two-way process. And you want to be sensitive to what the interview panel is looking for. Sometimes a short presentation is required. And you want to tell what benefits you would bring to the department. So in conclusion, make sure to spot the advert early and make a CV preparation tailored to the job. Find out everything about the job, and throughout the interview, show your cool professionalism with enthusiasm. You want to show the interview panel that you are not only right for the job, but also the job is right for you. And if you don't succeed, you have to keep trying. And this is very important. Ask for detailed feedback if you are not successful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for both of our speakers, Dr. Azli and Dr. Hani. Now is the most awaited sessions, the Q&A sessions. So feel free to ask or post any of your burning questions, and we'll do our best to answer your questions. You can either type it in a chat box, or you can unmute your mic for a second and ask a question.
I have a question for Dr. Azli. How competitive is it to get a consultant post? Because the impression I get is that there is a scarcity of consultants. So I always expect that you would get a job regardless if you're already a qualified consultant.
It depends on where you want to work. I think there are a lot of consultant posts available in the country. So yes, you will get it. I suppose is where you have to decide whether it is the location that you want or the same department. But there are, I think for trainees who actually completed their training in the UK, you are in a good position to get a consultant post. So there are areas of the country where it is easier to relatively less competitive, and there are some areas that are more competitive. For example, if you want to get a job in London, it is said that you have to be in the scene to get a job. Likewise, I think London is probably I mean, the other places are different. But yes, there is a good chance of getting a consultant post here in the UK.
Okay, thank you.
Any other question from the floor? There's a question here to Dr. Azli. So in terms of teaching and research, what's your advice to current SPRs? How can they prepare themselves over 5 to 6 years of their training before applying for a consultant post?
So I think in terms of teaching, you want to, as already mentioned by the first speaker, Hani, is to get this teaching qualification, do the PG cert or the diploma, or and then to prepare over training before applying a consultant post. I think that your training should be able to prepare you. You will be guided by your educational supervisor through the training program. So it shouldn't be a problem. I think if you want to do research, you probably want to wait to the middle of your registrar's training. If you not sure which area you want to do, but if you decide you want to be an academic, then I suggest you do your research towards the end of your training, so that you are up to date with the state of your research, so that you can immediately after that you can apply for honorary consultant, but more of an academic position in a university, and then you can apply for the national senior fellowship, for example, for funding. So it depends. But if you want to get a touch of the research, just to get some sense of research, then you can do the middle of it. I think doing research in the middle of it is good. If you want to do a MD or PhD, or you can do masters or fellowship, subspecialty fellowship in the middle of it, so that when you come back, then because you will probably lose some of your clinical skills while you're doing research, because it's so defined and so narrow the area of research, and then when you get back, you need to go back to the broader sense of your specialty, so to prepare you for the finishing touches before applying for consultant post. So that's sort of in general.
A question to Dr. Hani. See if you're closing someone else the audit. Does that count as a closed loop audit, or do you only score half a point for closing someone else audit?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
See if you're closing someone else audit. Would you score a point for a closed loop audit, or you only score half a point for that?
You would score lesser points if you were just doing part of the audit cycle. You wouldn't get the full marks, but you would still get a few marks for it, provided that the closed loop audit is part of a QIP. So if you're just auditing before and after, but you're not actually making any changes, you won't actually get a mark for audit. But this is obviously going to be different between applications. For most UK applications, the point system is very similar, but it might be a bit different for ophthalmology and radiology. I tried to look into ophthalmology point system. and I couldn't really find anything. There was something mentioned on a blog that was in 2017, but some of my friends that have been applying recently said that there wasn't any guidance on the points. So my advice from what I've told you guys today is based on what's more commonly, what we commonly see, like ST3, CST, CMT applications. And in fact, radiology is very similar as well. They all go through the ORIAL system. I see another question here. Is that okay with that answer?
Yes, thank you so much.
I can see another question here to Dr. Hani. Between a PG Cert, a diploma, and an MSc, which one is much more time efficient and appropriate for our CV? So it will really depend on you, which level with it. For me personally, in terms of points, you would definitely get more points with an MSc, but with time efficiency, PG certs and diploma are quicker ones to get over a short period. But if you have the luxury of time to be out of training, then I would go for the ones where you would achieve the higher point. So if you're still going to do it whilst you're working and training, do a PG cert or a diploma.
Any other question from the floor? Another question to Dr. Hani. Is it better to join an already established audit project or QIP in your hospital, or you come up with a new and lead your own audit or QIP?
For the purpose of scoring the point, I am always the kind of person that wants to do the less, the less work, but then more points. So I do find that already established QIPs you are usually very detailed, tenacious, and takes a lot of time QIPs because they are big QIPs. So I tend, and then you're not going to get the point for organizing the QIP. So I did my own QIP, and I did a simple one that I could do within 4 weeks. So for example, a QIP that I could think of is you might look at your surgical performer and you notice there's so many things wrong about it, like the deanery isn't updated, some things are missing from it. You can just audit a performer, like a surgical performer, over 2 weeks, and then present it to your colleagues, make a new performer, and then try it for 2 weeks, and then re-audit it. So that's a very simple QIP that you can do within a month or two. Even I did it within 3 weeks, and it was counted as a full QIP because I organized it and then presented it as well. So think of ways that it can make things easier, especially when you're trying to do it on top of studying for your MRCP and doing a full-time job with on-calls. So answer to that is do your own QIP.
All right, one last question. So no question from the floor? All right. Thank you very much for all your attention tonight. We hope this workshop will benefit you, and all the best for your application. Stay tuned for our next Dear Doctor series, where we'll be exposing tips and tricks on how to ace the interview. And don't forget to complete feedback to obtain your certificate of attendance. please follow us on ICRAM UKE Health and Wellbeing, Facebook, IG, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you so much once again to all our speakers and all our participants tonight. We're closing our event with Suratul Ars. Assalamualaikum and have a very good night.